the boat. They just don't wear the hat.
That would probably
like
just get a little extra. Yeah, it's a boat club. They've got those throughout Florida. They're
I'd love to be in a boat club.
It's great because, you know, the famous saying is the two best days in your life are the day you buy the boat and the day you sell the boat.
And you know what's worse is when the humpback whale jumps on top of your boat when you're fishing.
Did you see that?
Do you see that video?
We're going to show it coming up. It's amazing.
I hate, that's what I always worry about. Look out for the humpback whale. I find myself staring at the water.
And then you have this huge whale coming out. We'll talk about it coming up.
It's a bad part about whales in the water.
You know, speaking of animals in the water, our next correspondent was actually swimming with sharks 2 days ago.
Well, he's a big surfer.
He is indeed.
Was he surfing and there were sharks?
He was down in Jupiter. Maybe he'll tell us about it sometime soon. In the meantime, let's introduce him.
All right, Brian.
All right, let's go over to, all right, I won't give away who it is. Over 500,000 known gotaways have snuck across the southern border in fiscal year 2022.
That's an average of more than 55,000 illegal immigrants per month.
That is Greg Jenkins' official topic, although he was swimming with sharks a couple of days
He's got a wetsuit under his suit right now.
Yeah, what is that about?
I can see the zipper.
Swimming with sharks.
Well, you know, there have been a spate of recent shark attacks, certainly near you guys in Long Island, so I decided to get in the water with some and see what it was all about. More on that in just a moment. But first, your headline about DHS sources saying more than 500,000 migrants illegally crossed our border, then evaded capture and disappeared into the shadows. That's enough to fill last year's Super Bowl more than 7 times, and that's just the first 9 months of this fiscal year. You can see there, that's last fiscal year, almost 400,000. Add those two together, and you have the population equal to San Francisco, illegally crossing, then hiding. We don't know who they are, where they went. Former acting DHS Secretary Chad Wolf had this to say.
This is a significant problem. And look, this is the consequences when you don't have an effective border security and immigration enforcement strategy. So these are 55,000 to 60,000 individuals every single month that get away from Border Patrol, that don't have interviews with law enforcement. And so these are the very worst of the worst.
Meanwhile, your mayor there in New York City, Eric Adams, is blaming this crisis, which is overwhelming the city, on border states. Watch.
If there was ever an all hands on deck moment, this is it. This is it. Our system was inundated with those who were seeking shelter because of the callousness of those other states that pushed them out. We're here, we're receiving them, and everyone is going to have to be on board.
But House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is pointing the finger at the Biden administration, slamming a new pilot program to reportedly hand out temporary ID cards, telling the Daily Mail, quote, during the worst border crisis in history, the Biden administration is now handing out ID cards to illegal migrants to make it easier to travel throughout the United States. Axios reports, though, that the program is yet to begin and needs congressional approval. It comes as DHS Secretary Mayorkas, by the way, today heads to Tegucigalpa, Honduras, to meet with Honduran president to discuss the ongoing migration challenges within the region. We'll see what comes of that. Now, finally, as promised, I went down to Jupiter, Florida, where Steve spends time, went offshore about 4 miles and swam with more than 20 sharks to sort of get a eye-to-eye confrontation with them. And the guy that led the tour said, just keep your eye on him, and this apex predator will not eat you, which worked when I saw one shark, but when the other 19 showed up, it caused a bit of a whiplash. But fortunately, all 10 fingers and toes are intact.
When are we going to see this, number one? Number two, how did you get out there? By boat? Did you swim? Did you surf out to it?
You take a boat out 4 miles off the coast of Jupiter in what's known as the superhighway of sharks, where the Gulf Stream goes. I put some video on Twitter. You can see it. Immediately we saw them. I had a little GoPro camera, and they're coming right at me. And you use your hand, Brian, and you just sort of push them out of the way. Unfortunately, there were no nibbles, but it was definitely a unnerving situation.
Yeah, you had to be nervous.
Are you Aquaman? How do you get this type of power?
Did you you have a Mai Tai on the boat before you got in the water?
No. We might have had a Corona afterwards just to celebrate getting over the nerves. But, you know, there's no cage. You're just with the mask and snorkel and fins swimming out in the open. So, you know, I bumped into them multiple times. And fortunately, they say that these predators are much more docile
what did your wife
when you're
say
in
about
their
this?
environment. She didn't think it was a great idea, but glad I made it home. My 2 daughters, by the way, now want to go.
So Griff, it's good to see you found a way to unwind after being in Kyiv for a while.
Yes.
And at the border. It's a good way, just a way to kick back and relax this summer.
And we look forward to your video. You'll be sharing real soon.
But we have to pay for the rights on your video, right?
Not at all. No. It's going to be on Fox, at least certainly on Saturday when I anchor the Saturday noon to 2 show. We'll do a deeper dive into what these toothy creatures are all about.
All right. Thank you so much.
Look forward to it.
All right, so one thing we have to say, just to build on what Mayor Adams said. Mayor Adams came out and erroneously saying that Texas and Arizona are sending people to New York City. They are not. They're sending them to Washington, D.C. It was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis who said, I'm going to send them to Delaware. They stopped going to Jacksonville. The other thing is, it gives me some hope. There's a common sense caucus in New York City that wrote a letter to the president saying, stop sending your illegal immigrants into our state. They end up in our city. You're overburdening our social services systems, including our shelters. In that common sense caucus are at least 2 Democrats. So I have hope that maybe we're hitting the breaking point.
It's just a constant story, and nothing ever gets done about this. There are 900,000 since the beginning of 2021. Gotaways, that's gotaways. That's larger than the number of people who live in San Francisco.
You know, I think the reason the Biden administration may stop shipping people to other spots in the country, which they've done, you know.
Secret flights, we've seen them.
Well, we've seen those. But it's because now the mayors of these big northeastern cities that are where the shelters are being strapped and, you know, are overcrowded, they're now asking for federal money. And the administration doesn't have it, so they've got to come up with Plan B. Brian was talking to Carlos Jimenez, a congressman from Florida. He just returned. He's actually down in San Antonio right now. He said there are definitely 500,000 gotaways that we know of. And that's a number we've never seen before. Watch this.
Our Customs and Border Protection agents are completely overwhelmed. You got tens of thousands of illegal immigrants coming into the United States, and they have to be processed. By the way, that 500,000 figure that you quoted, that's the ones that we know got away. I asked one of their commanders, well, how many do you estimate that you don't know got away? And he said, well, at least double that. So it's not 500,000, it's about 1 million that have crossed over that we don't know who they are, where they're going, why they're here. You know, when Secretary Mayorkas says that the border's under control, that's a flat-out lie. The border is not under control.
And that's just this fiscal year, the 500,000 gotaways. Fiscal year began in October. So what is this number going to be when the year is complete?
Yeah, no kidding.
So there's an agent that said, you know, the Biden administration saying our border is secure. There's an agent that pushed back and said hundreds of thousands of crossings every month is not the definition of secure. They are liars, and anyone who believes them are fools.
Right. Meanwhile, yesterday we told you about the Washington Post editorial that said Joe Biden don't run for re-election and announce it before the midterms so Democrats don't lose everything. So the Washington Post yesterday said don't run, and today the New York Times actually is doing a story to try to elevate the profile of Kamala Harris. The headline of it is Kamala Harris is stuck. It was written by Jeffrey Frank. And essentially what it says is don't blame her that she's not a rising star. She's not given important high-profile duties that would make Americans love her because she's great, the op-ed says.
Here's a quote. Here's a portion of it. Vice President Kamala Harris, who was a first-term senator from California before entering the White House, hasn't been given the sort of immersive experiences, or sustained high-profile tasks that would deepen and broaden her expertise in ways that Americans could see and appreciate. Her on-the-job training and governing has largely involved intricable issues, intraceable not good at this. Like migration and voting rights, where she has not shown demonstrable growth in leadership.
Right.
So they're blaming President Biden for not giving good enough jobs. Believe me, if you ask Democrats what they were most concerned of, remember Jim Crow 2.0? That was their #1 issue. It didn't resonate, but it was up to her to go from state to state and tell her side of the story, whether it was what you thought the Republican rules were in Georgia, what you were worried about in Florida, or in Arizona. She could have shown up there. Press would have followed her everywhere. 80% of the coverage would have been positive. And the most important thing would be to grab one of those tan shirts or those jean shirts. You go down there to the border. You walk around. You go into the tents. You meet with the families. You meet with the Border Patrol. You go to these other countries. You create relationships with Central and South America.
Right.
You find out what the issues are. And if your approach is like the previous administration's approach, you warn them. If you continue to send illegals to our border, we are going to take away the subsidies that we're giving you just for being you. So when the president started saying, I'm tariffing Mexico, I am pulling away aid from Guatemala and Honduras and El Salvador, that's when they paid attention. And then he would restore it. She was unwilling to do anything except for some one-person visit, one interview, a Zoom meeting, and then she went to the border one time, which was really miles from the border. She stayed for 45 minutes, gave a ridiculous comment. What I also thought is noteworthy, she came out and spoke against the so-called horse soldier incident immediately. That's the only time she instinctively went to the microphones regarding the border. She had jobs.
She raised money when all those people were rioting to get them out of jail.
Right. Well, Joe Biden gave her the jobs of the border, voting rights, and space, but they were not opportunities for her to shine. And the New York Post, rather New York Times, says now that Joe has COVID, they need to find ways to make her a true governing partner rather than just a political partner who helped get him elected, and says she is hampered by Joe's unpopularity.
Well,
how unpopular is Joe? Watch this. Here is Missouri Congresswoman Cori Bush asked about Joe Biden and his future, and she doesn't want to answer it.
Do you want to see Joe Biden run for a second term?
She's got to go.
Yeah,
That's an easy question. It's not going to take long. Do you want to see Joe Biden run?
I don't want to answer that question because we have not, I don't want to answer that question.
Okay.
I mean, he's the president and he has the right to run for a second term. Absolutely. But I don't want to, I'd rather you not do that answer.
So then
I don't think she wants to answer it.
An aide interrupts her and says, she's got to go. She's got to go. So she ends the interview. We don't know where she had to go.
She had to go in 25 minutes. She had a meeting. By the way, Cori Bush is the one Democrat who some of them will answer this question. She's a Democrat. You say, do you want to defund the cops? She says yes. And Nancy Pelosi passes out because they know that's detrimental to the party for continue to say defund the cops. She wakes up every day and says defund the police. And that is part of the movement that Democrats want to deny that they have within that is simply destroying them. And on top of that, Kamala Harris, also space. I forgot about space. Do you realize how intriguing space is? China is sending up their own space station. You got the turbulence with Russia and the U.S. right now with our space station. We got the Space Force was emerging. These are all opportunities she chose not to go after. Don't blame the assignment. Blame the person.
Well, they've got to blame somebody because she's fantastic, according to the New York Times.
To come from New York or from California. Cori Bush from St. Louis, your neck of the woods.
Missouri, indeed. All right, a lot going on in the news, and now we turn to Carly, who's got news from Texas.
I certainly do. Listen to this. The principal of Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas, Mandy Gutierrez, has been put on administrative leave. Texas state lawmakers previously blaming her for failing to repair locks on a classroom door before the shooting in May that claimed the lives of 19 students and 2 teachers. This past year was Gutierrez's first as principal of the school. To a Fox News alert here, a medical helicopter crashing into power lines while responding to a fatal car crash just outside Cincinnati early this morning. Fox 19 reports 3 state troopers responded to the scene a little after 4 a.m. 1 person is dead and at least 3 others were injured in the initial vehicle crash. It's still unclear if any of the crew members on board the medical helicopter were injured. Keeping an eye on that one for sure. To a Fox weather alert, a flash flood emergency has been declared in the St. Louis area after almost 10 inches of rain fell in just a few hours. Video from the scene shows cars stranded and partially submerged by rising waters. Rescue crews were dispatched in small boats to help evacuate trapped drivers. The National Weather Service warning people early this morning to seek higher ground. And oh boy, it is the end of an era for Choco Taco fans. After nearly 40 years, Klondike is pulling the beloved ice cream treat off the shelves. The company says it's because of a surge in demand for its other products. The chocolate-covered vanilla ice cream treat has been a staple since 1983. Fans are now taking to social media to stop the taco from getting the axe, begging the question, what would you do for a Choco Taco? The answer is a whole lot for me when I was a kid. Choco Tacos in the Jersey Shore accompany my childhood.
Absolutely.
Those are the only two things that mattered.
My kids too, and they were so furious that they pulled the plug on them because now apparently it sounds like they're going to try to bring them back to ice cream trucks in the next couple of years.
Well, that is not good enough.
No. We need them now.
I know. What will Jill Biden say about this?
Oh, no, Ainsley, you went there.
Right. I can't believe they're getting rid of this, though. They're so popular.
I know. Well, I remember when Taco Bell, which, by the way, used to sell Choco Tacos, if you remember that, they got rid of the cheesy Fiesta potatoes, and there was such an backlash that they brought them back. So maybe that will happen this time as well.
You know what? I can't wait for Burger King to bring back the veal parmesan. I mean, I could not believe they ventured into the Italian, but when they went for the veal parmesan, the guttiest thing I've seen since the original space launch.
Do you remember you did the headline?
They sold 7.
Yeah.
You did the headline with the Velveeta cheese ice cream.
Yes.
I'm seeing the commercials everywhere.
The Velveeta cheese martini, too.
Oh, yeah, the martini. Now I'm seeing them like a big cone, and then they have...
Right.
This is so gross.
I would prefer the Choco Taco to the Velveeta martini, just saying. Carly, thank you very much.
Thanks, Carly.
Hey, have you seen this promo?
A lot of food knowledge.
Have you seen this promo? It's running on Fox News all the time.
How do you?
How do you?
How do you, Fox News? In the morning.
Freedom to decide.
While I'm drinking my coffee.
Doing my homework. Getting my kids out the door.
Because the news is always on the move.
When I need to hear a different perspective. In the park. With my pup.
In my favorite chair.
Getting fit.
Getting fed.
On my tablet.
Phone. Laptop.
This is how I Fox News. How do you?
And it asks a great question because we are so connected now. You can watch Fox News on your tablet, on your phone, all sorts of places. So we want to hear from you. How do you Fox News? And so just take your phone, do a selfie video, and say, I Fox News, just like those people did in that ad right there.
Yeah, you can include your kids, your family, however you watch Fox News. Just show us. And maybe they'll put together another commercial.
With you. So, as you can see right there, email us your videos, friends@foxnews.com. In the meantime, coming up on 720 here in the East, giving a whole new meaning to winner
theory and solving Christian's murder.
So the police have told me that they know that he wasn't the intended target. What I was told is this individual had owed some folks some money in Chicago. He went to California for 9 months, and he came back to town, and he was only in town for 4 days.
I'm curious why they're after him for money and what kind of money was it? Because the bank doesn't come shoot you on the corner if you don't pay your car note.
Well, it has been more than a month since Gianno Caldwell's younger brother, Christian, was shot to death in Chicago, and still no arrests. The Fox News analyst sitting down with Nancy Grace as he matches Crime Stoppers' $15,000 reward for any information. It's all part of Nancy's latest special, The Chicago Crime Crisis, on Fox Nation, and she joins us now. Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning, and I want to thank you at the get-go for inviting me on to represent Gianno. Right now, his pain was just beneath the surface when I interviewed him, and that reward has now climbed to $30,000. A month has passed, no leads. Gianno calls every day to Chicago PD. He gets nothing. Think about it. There he is with all of his education, this awesome job with an awesome network. Yet he's getting no answers. What about people that don't have his resources, his education, his money, his wherewithal? What do you think they get? Nothing. And he also told me that there's a 12% arrest rate for things like rapes and murders. 12% end in arrest, much less conviction in Chicago.
Wow. Any tips at all? Are they getting any information?
I don't think they are. And with every day that goes by, in my experience, prosecuting felony crimes just like this, witnesses disappear. They disperse. Memories become foggy. It gets harder and harder. I hate to stand by and see this case go cold. But another thing that really touched me is when I talked to Giano about his little brother, his baby brother, just turned...
District attorneys, county prosecutors, which is true. And these are progressive policies. This isn't about left, right, Democrat, Republican. This is about humanity.
Nancy, the numbers are staggering in Chicago after every single weekend. Are they just desensitized to it?
That is my fear, that cops are overwhelmed and desensitized. And you don't want to be the cop or the prosecutor where all the criminals want to come to your court. They want you to handle their case because you're soft on crime. And it starts at the top with the governor, with the mayor, Lightfoot, all the way down to the prosecutor, Kim Fox, and it filters down to the police. And we have no answers in Giano's brother Christian's case.
Nancy, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll get some answers. If you know anything, call the Chicago Police Department. You can watch this brand new special, Chicago Crime Crisis. It's available now on Fox Nation. And if you have any information about the death of Giano's brother, the Chicago Police Department, we're going to put the number up on the screen. It should be there. There it is right there, 312-747-8271. Coming up, the White House has a new strategy to avoid a recession, redefining the word.
Not the technical definition.
In terms of the technical definition, it's not a recession.
That is not the actual definition of a recession.
The technical definition of a recession.
In my view, my hope is we go from this rapid growth to steady growth. And so we'll see some coming down. But I don't think we're going to, God willing, I don't think we're going to see a recession.
God willing, he says, President Biden, dismissing any concerns about a possible recession as his own administration is challenged on trying to spin the definition of what a recession even is. They're getting technical. Listen.
2 negative quarters, 2 contracting quarters, means that the economy is in a recession. Do you believe that? Is that what you ascribe to?
That is not the actual definition of a recession. It is a significant contractionary period over a few months where those who make that determination look at a lot of different factors.
All right, here to react, host of Varney and Company on Fox Business, Stuart Varney. Stuart, you live this every day. Were you shocked to see the offensive yesterday to redefine Sunday to redefine recession?
No, neither shock nor surprise.
I've never heard it approached like that.
I would expect the administration to do its utmost to avoid the Biden recession label, which will come if we're in a recession. And let's be clear right from the start, we are in a recession. Right now, we are in a recession. Wait a second. In the first half of this year, January through the end of June, this economy contracted. That's 2 quarters. Okay, maybe not back-to-back on the downside. Who cares? Who cares about a technical definition of a recession? We are in a recession, and everybody out there knows it. And you can see from consumers' own behavior right now.
Why aren't they just honest? I mean, they spun Afghanistan.
Because they don't want...
They spun the border. They're spinning the gas prices, the inflation, and now recession.
Well, this administration has a problem with reality. As you say, Afghanistan was not a success. The border is not closed. And gasoline is still $1.20 more expensive now than it was 1 year ago. They cannot afford to say, OK, we're in a recession, because they know perfectly well they'd be slammed politically and economically, slammed by that label, the Biden recession, desperate to avoid it.
And so that's why they're spinning that this week, although last week their mantra was, oh, those are old numbers. We're waiting for the new numbers. New number comes out on Thursday. That will be a recession. Right. Real quickly, Senator Rob Portman of the great state of Ohio, he's taken a look at how apparently China is targeting the Federal Reserve.
Yes, the Chinese, according to this report from the senator, Republican Ohio, that the Chinese are targeting Federal Reserve officials and employees. Now, the Federal Reserve is our central bank. They control the money in this country. If the Chinese infiltrate, and that's what they're trying to do, they would have access to our financial security. Senator Portman reports that Chinese people have detained Fed employees in China and had them questioned and threatened.
About how the central bank works?
How it works, and maybe give over some information. Now, that's heavy-duty pressure on our financial security. Rob Portman reveals that they've got a direct threat to our financial security. They've detained and threatened Fed officials. Some Fed employees have direct ties to Chinese-run programs at American universities. There's a connection there. There's an infiltration there, and Senator Portman points it out and says our financial security is under threat.
And he would know. He was former OMB director under Bush. So he understands how all this stuff works.
He's been investigating this for, I think, the last 4 years. It's a 10-year effort by the Chinese. He's investigated it for 4 years. This is what he's found.
All right. You can also watch American Built tonight at 8 p.m. It's on Fox Business Prime. And watch Stuart Varney and Company at 9 a.m. Eastern. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. Good stuff.
You're welcome.
We'll watch it today, Stuart.
I hope you do.
Right,
we shall, yes.
Right. Do y'all ever do that?
We do it every day.
On
once
TV,
a week.
what time?
Once a week, about 9:50. No, it's 10:50.
All right, because he's on radio and
same
he's on TV at the same time.
Thank you very much, Stuart.
Thanks, Stuart.
All right, coming up, U.S. Navy officer Ridge Elkonis reporting to prison after being sentenced to 3 years for a deadly car crash in Japan. But his wife says the accident was caused by a medical emergency. She joins us next with her plea for the president.
Officer living in Japan has reported to prison after being convicted of negligent driving that resulted in the deaths of 2 Japanese citizens over a year ago. Lieutenant Ridge Elkonis is facing 3 years behind bars, but his wife says the accident was caused by a medical emergency and is calling on the President of the United States for help. Brittany joins us right now. Brittany, can you tell us what happened?
We were driving up Mount Fuji. We went hiking for about 45 minutes. That's what my daughter asked to do before she's been deployed. And then as we were driving down the mountain and reaching the base, my husband lost consciousness. And my daughter tried to wake him with no success. We hit 2 cars. He never hit the brake. He never woke up, not until a few minutes after the accident.
Wow, there must have been a harrowing situation. And what did you find out later really happened? He didn't fall asleep at the wheel. What happened?
No, nothing that happened, either leading up to that or at the accident itself, indicates that he fell asleep. And the police report stated as such. It said they did not know why he lost consciousness. We later found out, after he spent 26 days in solitary confinement, being interrogated 8 hours a day, about a 5-minute stretch of time, that he most likely had acute mountain illness, and that was the clinical diagnosis.
Okay, so so regardless, they don't accept that? Is that why he got 3 years in prison?
So in order to explain that, I think we'd have to have a much longer conversation than we can this morning about how the Japanese justice system works. But in short, no. If he wanted any hope of getting a suspended sentence, he could not argue that in court. Now, that being said, we tried to bring it up gently in the first trial, and the judge decided that it simply wasn't likely. She has no medical experience to make that opinion. And in the appeal, we did actually file the medical diagnosis. The prosecutor asked for it out due to the fact that he did not feel it was relevant, and so the judge threw it out.
So you need help, and you have Ambassador Rahm Emanuel. You met with him, but most of all, you need the president to take action. It's a friendly government. This is a rational government. This is a horrible incident, but you really couldn't have prevented. What was your meeting with Rahm Emanuel like, and are you hopeful he'll get to the president for you?
So it was a phone call, but I think it was a good one. After my husband was convicted at the appeal, he couldn't sleep. He decided to send an email to the embassy, and he said, "Hey, I would respectfully like to request to speak to Ambassador Emanuel." And we had a good conversation a couple days later. He does have a good relationship with President Biden, and I am hopeful that that relationship will turn into my husband coming home.
Wow. Brittany, keep taking action. It's so bad you're going through this. There's no winners in this, but there's no way he should be behind bars. Brittany Elkonis, especially while serving our country and protecting theirs overseas. Brittany, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Brian.
You got it. We'll stay on top of this. I appreciate you telling your story. Carly, over to you now for more news we need to know.
That's right, and we're going to begin right here with this. The body of missing Texas mom Christina Powell was found yesterday inside her car parked outside of a strip mall. Powell was reported missing nearly 3 weeks ago. Police say her body was left in the car for about a week. The 39-year-old was last seen in this doorbell camera footage rushing out the door. She told family she was running late for work. A medical examiner will carry out an autopsy to determine her official cause of death. Legendary actor Paul Sorvino has died at 83 years old. The actor, best known for his role as a mobster in Goodfellas, passed away peacefully in his home yesterday, according to his wife, Dee Dee. He joined us on Fox and Friends several times over the years and told us what it was like to be known for his iconic roles as the bad guy.
We brought in cookie expert Paul Sorvino.
Sorvino for the rest of my life, but so be it.
Thanks, Steve.
It's okay.
Paul was also the father of actress Mira Sorvino, who joined her dad on the show several years back. His family says he suffered from ongoing health issues and died of natural causes. He certainly be missed. Check this out. Shocking footage shows a whale crashing into a boat off the coast of Massachusetts on Sunday. The whale breaches the water and lands on top of the fishing boat, which was anchored near Plymouth. All of the passengers were on the back of the boat. So you see right there, no one was injured. Can you believe that? It's unclear how damaged the boat was after that scary incident. Janice, that's not something you see every day. My goodness.
It is not something you see every day. I got the chills just looking at it, Carly. Oh, my goodness. I'm glad everybody's okay. Listen, I want to tell you about what's happening across the Midwest, the St. Louis area. 6 to 9 inches in just a matter of hours. Take a look at the radar. In some cases, we could get more rain in the forecast along a frontal boundary that's stalled over the Ohio Valley. And you can see where we have flash flood warnings. Right now, we have a weather emergency occurring in the St. Louis area, and this is what happened. So you have the stalled front, you have all of this atmospheric moisture overnight that continues to pour in, and then rounds of heavy rain north of this boundary. It's a perfect setup for flash flooding and record-setting rain in this area. This is I-70 eastbound in the St. Louis area. That is shut down because of water over the road. Certainly a story we're going to be covering throughout the day today and on Fox Weather, and there's still more rain to come in this neighborhood. The other big story is the heat. It's been ongoing for the last several weeks. All of your details and your headlines are at foxweather.com. All right, Brian, over to you.
All right, thanks so much, Janice. All right, you're going to love this story. Hitting the jackpot. That's what Raising Cane's is hoping for after buying its employees 50,000 lottery tickets ahead of tonight's Mega Millions.
They already queued.